Today's art and archetype is about the rescuer. So this is the Carolyn Mace card, and the light attributes being provide strength and support to others in crisis and acts out of love with no expectation of reward. But in the shadow assumes that the rescued will reciprocate, and it keeps the rescued one in a needy state. So I'm looking at how that applies to art, and I have some abandoned products that I thought could be rescued. The rescuer participating in art might breathe life into those projects that have been abandoned, or might seek out remnants or cast-offs, those things that might end up in the garbage that the artist knows can be salvageable and provide the CPR. So right now I'm just looking at auditioning which of these unfinished projects might want to have new life. And for some reason I'm really liking this and considering where that might go. But I also have this one that really intrigues me at the moment and seems to be calling. I even wonder if these two possibly go together in some way. I also have some really beautiful borders that I've had for 20 years and looking at using some of them, and I can see real possibility in something like that. Then I also have this one. Know that the rescuer can help animals, like an animal rescuer, or again, art park projects or art restoration, or dealing with costumes that need to be resewn and restored. It could also be helping people mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. So I actually think I'm going to probably use this one. I'm not so sure about this. I also have this blue one. I like the idea of having different ones. That has possibility. And I've got this beautiful one. So I'm going to make a decision and actually sew these on. So I've rescued this piece of trim or border, and I did decide to add another one down here. And then I've also rescued this border as well, but I've fused it and I'm going to cut it out. So keep in mind that the light side of the rescuer is that she trains for the emergencies. So in between the crisis, she is recuperating, she's nourishing herself, she's doing the heavy lifting or activities that provide the strength and endurance that she will need during the crisis. The emergencies only come at brief intervals, so she's not always on in terms of that high adrenaline state. She has time to really restore her own self and not become depleted. So she can also turn off those high states of vigilance and can retreat into quieter, more calm spaces. In the shadow, she gives way to the drama and thrives on that kind of drama. She can easily become codependent. She may try to change people, whereas in the light, she knows that you can't change anybody. So she becomes the change that she wishes to see in others. In the shadow, because she's on and in that high and adrenaline state, hyper vigilant, she can easily fall into burnout. She can become codependent or a martyr. And in the shadow, she doesn't focus on meeting her own needs because she's so conserved about saving others. I should also say that in the shadow, the rescuer thinks that it's only her that can do the saving, that she's the only one that has that ability. And then I also want to say that this background embellished, like machine embellished, so this is many different fabrics that have been needle punched. And I think this was on a Lutrador. It looks like maybe silver painted, but I know it's one of the famous gates that we have in our area. And I've gone ahead and fused this, and I'm gonna make some cutouts of these kind of floral things. But you can see that I've repeated the curve. So I'm hoping that that's gonna make the piece look consistent and that it goes together. I like that this is catching some of the gold in here, so it brings in a little bit more of the light. So in terms of the artwork, you may know as a rescuer, if you are one, and you make art, just how important the art is to replenishing your soul and your fuel stores and your energy levels, and how it's what you need to sustain yourself. You learn to say no to other things that would take away from your ability to participate in studio time. So you've got good boundaries. You provide yourself with lots of rest. As an artist, you may have a very keen antenna looking out for those forgotten fragments that others are going to discard. So you may frequently use recycled materials or materials that would be cast away or cast off. You may finish projects that other people started and then abandoned. What I just did here is I like that this has a element that's outside of the linear, because I've got the verticals going and then the horizontal, and this kind of, that format breaks out of that a little bit. And then I'm looking at, could I reproduce that elsewhere? Again, trying to get in some kind of element of repetition to create a more consistent flow. Okay, I've come back in. I've actually done a lot of quilting. I wanted to emphasize some of this yellow. It's not a lot of yellow, but it's a little bit of yellow. And that's because the yellow color represents caution. And I think that's very appropriate for the rescuer. You can see that I probably could do some more quilting back here, but I'm gonna know when to exit, right? That's the light side of the rescuer, and understanding that in between the acts of creation, the rescuer keeps her tools sharpened, like she keeps her fabrics folded if she works with fabric, or keeps her brushes cleaned if she works with paints. She oils her machinery, and she keeps everything ready so that when that creative alarm rings, she's ready to go.